If your mixes feel flat and just kind of off, follow along with these simple but powerful steps to create a more three-dimensional mix. And sorry, just throwing on more reverb isn't going to fix the mix. There's an even more basic, more fundamental reason mixes don't sound professional, and this information is often way overlooked. I look at mixes in phases. This is phase 1, where we use certain techniques to shape our perception of the space the music feels like it's in. Things like our sense of forward to back, left to right, audio height, width, depth, and a sense of motion within the music. And some of those might sound like the same thing, but when we dive into this, you'll see how this all makes so much sense, but no one has ever taught it to you like this. So do not just throw a bunch of plugins on and hope for the best. Keep watching so you can make informed decisions on how to mix your next single. A great mix feels immersive, like you're stepping into the song. If you close your eyes, you feel like you're standing in the middle of a stadium or a tile bathroom, depending on the mix you're going for. Think of your mix like you're on stage, and every voice or sound is standing in a different spot on the stage, playing its own part. That before mixing recording you just heard is what it would sound like if every voice on stage was standing on top of each other, fighting to occupy one single spot on the stage, and they're all facing one direction. Things get buried, it's hard to hear every individual thing happening, everything is just smashed. So here's how we pull that lead singer front and center and spread every other piece throughout a multi-dimensional space. Our sense of front to back of stage is actually controlled by volume. So element number 1 is our mix levels. A major beginner mistake is turning everything up, hoping that we can hear it all, but that's actually how things end up fighting for space, and then we can't hear them. And literally, they're called background vocals because they're supposed to be standing towards the back of the stage. If you had your eyes closed and I was speaking to you, and I started backing up, getting further and further away from you, do you perceive that I'm still standing there, I'm just starting to speak quieter? Or do you perceive that I'm getting further away? Obviously, I'm just further away, and as a result, my volume has gone down. But in your spatial awareness, now you can feel a sense of forward and back, or closeness, or further away. The cool thing is you can still hear me. So your big takeaway number 1 is to turn those background vocals down, which I'll do right now. And this is not just for volume purposes, this is for spatial awareness reasons. Number 2 is, of course, panning. Panning a vocal will place it somewhere more left or more right. I always like to keep my lead vocal center, but sometimes in the rare occasion where I do have an ad lib, which is kind of like a lead, singing at the same time as my main lead, those two are both going to be pan center and they'll be kind of on top of each other. So in that case, I may go to my ad lib track and pan it just slightly off center, like 5%. That'll give it just a little bit of room. For my background vocals, I like to record all of them in sets of 2. So I've got A back 1, A back 2, B back 1, B back 2, C back 1, C back 2. And I have those panned hard left and hard right. Each following pair is panned just a little bit more inward. So I have B backs at 90, C back is at 80, 80, perfect. That's starting to create a little bit of a spread, right? If I have more background vocals, I might go 70-70, 60-60. I would say that once you get to 50-50 though, I don't really like the way that starts to sound. So from there, I usually just start at 100 again and go back in. You might be thinking, oh, then this pair is gonna be sitting on top of the other pair. Well, it's probably okay at this point because of element number 3, audio height. I'm guessing your first pair of backgrounds and your 6th pair of backgrounds are not going to be anywhere near singing the same harmony. Pair number 1 is probably going to be up high. Pair number 6 is going to probably be down low, which is such a different pitch. So we're actually going to perceive number 6 as down here and number 1 as all the way up here. So even though they're panned in the same spot, they are in their own space. 2 vocals at a very different pitch are not going to really fight for space. Our perception of audio height is affected by pitch, frequency, and the timbre, which is like the tonality of the sound. A bass guitar has a lot of low frequency presence compared to a vocal. That's why when you listen to a song, you feel like the vocal is floating somewhere above the bass guitar. You can really give your mix a lot of dimension just by playing with the different pitches within the song. Adding a low octave and a high octave will already make your vocal mix feel that much more spacious. Then add harmonies. Mwah! But beyond vocals, if you are producing the instrumental as well, the key to a very immersive sounding mix is to choose instruments that don't compete with each other frequency-wise. So pay attention to if your bass and your kick drum are hitting the same frequencies. Maybe you should choose a different kick. Do you have a flute sound that's clashing with your hi-hats because they're in the same frequency range? Paying close attention to those things will do wonders for your mix. So to recap that, when it comes to the vocals, yes, you'll create more dimension by using different pitches, but also play with different tonalities. I often record doubles of the lead, but I'll make my background vocals like a little more airy sounding, maybe a little more breathy. So even though they're the same pitches, their harmonic content is a little different now. We can further manipulate this with EQ. So let's quickly look at the visual EQ for my lead. This is what my lead vocal is looking like. But if we go to our background vocals, we can mix this a little bit differently so it steps aside for the lead. I might reduce the mid vocal a little bit and maybe brighten up the high end a bit too. So this little change is going to make a big difference. It's going to make the background vocal feel a little bit thinner in a way. Step out of the way in the mid for the lead to shine through, and then give it a little more airiness, kind of like we're carving out some space for the lead. And adding more high frequencies to the backgrounds will allow the lead vocal to still sound natural while giving it extra sparkle. Element number 4 is stereo width. You've already placed some of your vocals left and right. Now we can push them even further out, making our mix feel nice and full. I usually do this only on the background vocals. And the plugin I like to use is called Reverb Pro. And so what I might do is actually not even use the reverb element of this Reverb plugin, just use the stereo width that's right here. Yeah, I put it up to 100. I like the way it feels nice and wide there. So go ahead and add that to all your background vocals. Okay, so far, we've been manipulating the feeling of where your sound source is located, like where the singer is standing. The next element is gonna help us start to shape the perception of how far away the walls are. So now our sound isn't static, it's traveling around the room. We'll use reverb, which is a spreading effect of many, many reflections, whereas delay is more of an echoing effect, where we hear that vocal repeating over and over. The more reverb and delay you put on, the further out your walls feel like they are. It'll create a bigger feeling room. Drenching it in tons of reverb is going to make it feel like your singer is like singing in the bottom of a bottomless pit, which is probably what we do not want. Beginner mistake, putting on too much reverb. However, stylistically, Taylor Swift has been doing a lot of reverb lately. I don't know, I think it's kind of retro sounding, which is probably what she was going for. I don't really like it. I think it's old school. I was definitely guilty of putting on too much reverb when I was new to recording, but I think more than anything, it was because I just wasn't super confident in my voice yet, and reverb made me feel like I sounded better. But I'm telling you, trust your voice, trust your talent. Too much reverb can actually make you sound less professional. And you know what? I am a big fan of the Reverb Pro. We just did our stereo width here, but I'm gonna go ahead and also add in the room sound, making that room bigger and dampen it a bit. And let's see how that sounds.
Already started, I'm done.
Yeah, I love that.
I'm standing on solid ground.
I'm gonna put that on everything. Now let me pick a delay. Let's go with stereo delay. And with delays, I wanna click on this music note thing. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna change the timing to a quarter note, an eighth note, half note. That's gonna be in time with our beat of the music. If you had this off, it would just be going at like every second, which isn't necessarily musical. So turn that on. Make sure your tempo was to the tempo of the song. Mine is 120, so I'm leaving it right there. And it's gonna bounce back at us in time.
I'm done setting fires.
Cool, and you can really hear it when you stop the music. So that's how I test my delays.
I'm done setting fires. I'm done setting fires.
Yeah, I love that. It's so subtle, you almost don't even want to hear it. It's just creating dimension, that's it. Lastly, adding motion to our background vocals is an awesome way to give life to your mix. We want to make sure it's not sounding stiff and static, like your singers can't move and they're stuck in one place. We do this using modulation plugins. These are all our modulation effects. They give us movement, like auto panning, chorus, flanger, phaser, rotary. I like simple chorus. Let's hear that. You hear how it's kind of moving, right? Add that to all the backgrounds. So let's recap again and listen down to the difference. Number 1, turn your background levels down. Number 2, pan those background vocals 100, 100, 90, 90, 80, 80, 70, 70, blah, blah, blah. Number 3, think about audio height. Add some background vocals. Think about adding a lower octave, a higher octave, and possibly even singing your background vocals in a different tone. You can even EQ the backgrounds a little bit different from the lead. Number 4, add some more stereo width to your background vocals. Number 5, reverb and delay, push those walls further away. And number 6, add modulation to the background vocals to create some motion within the mix. Let's hear the difference. No mixing, everything sitting on top of each other. Sounds like this.
I'm done setting fires just to get water, not walking on wires. I've already started. I'm done.
Now, after mixing,
I'm done setting fires just to get water, not walking on wires. I've already started. I'm done. I'm standing on solid ground. Yeah, I'm at peace now.
did you hear the difference? We were just transported from a boxy bedroom to a big concert hall. I hope that knowing the why behind each one of these techniques makes you feel confident in your mix choices instead of just tweaking aimlessly. This stuff is so important and it's what separates the beginners from the pros. So congrats, you're already ahead of the game with these new tools. But mixing does not stop there. Phase 2 is all about crafting your own signature vocal chain and fine-tuning them to your voice. We all have different voices, and so we need to learn how to dial these in differently to fit our different sounds. I'm Chimera V. Watch out for my next video where we're gonna learn how to design your own vocal chain. Make sure to click subscribe while you're here, and I'll catch you in the next video.